Okay, dear Nicholas, dear Top Beyond, dear panelists and guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good morning. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome all of you to third Taiwan-Nordic Forum, TNF. I would like to thank the Institute of Security and Development Policy, ISDP, for hosting this much anticipated 2023 Taiwan-Nordic Forum. I'm certain that everyone joining the event share my interest in learning more about the political, economic realities between Taiwan and Nordic countries, and of course, about our areas of collaboration and future prospects. Taiwan and Nordic countries are like-minded partners. We share the values of human rights, freedom, rules of law, and democracy. Yes, in Taiwan, we have very good tea. We have very good black tea, green tea, oolong tea, high mountain tea, bubble tea, even our guarantee. However, the best tea in Taiwan is our democratic tea. In the wake of Russia's ongoing war of aggression against Ukraine, Taiwan continues to stand with Ukraine in unity with fellow democracies toward Ukraine's victory and recovery. The people of Ukraine are currently given their all to resist to keep their treasure freedom and democracy. Taiwan works with our like-minded partner to maintain regional peace and stability. As you know, after U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan last year, PRC launched live fire military drills around Taiwan, escalating tensions in the Taiwan Strait. Since 1949, PRC has posed military threats towards Taiwan. Now, it routinely sends military aircraft and naval vessels around Taiwan and across the Taiwan Strait median line or enter the southwest corner of Taiwan's ADIZ zone. The PRC has suffered the rule-based international order. On the one hand, PRC has bullied Taiwan, and on the other hand, it also has bullied all the like-minded countries into keeping distance with Taiwan and isolating Taiwan. It looks like the small Davy fight against the giant Goliath. Taiwan stands on the front line that defends democracy. The tension in Taiwan Strait means democracy vis-a-vis authoritarianism. Beijing tends to increasingly frame one China policy of many countries within the context of PRC's on one China principle. In its public statements, furthermore, PRC is aggressively expanding their influence and impact by means of both war diplomacy, cognitive warfare, spy balloon, and even weaponizations of trade. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a bully, and we must hinder such unreasonable bully from the PRC. In this sense, we have very good reason to conduct our Taiwan-Nordic Forum, TNF, because TNF also means treasuring nice freedom. In this sense, I would like to call on all democratic allies to take common actions against the expansion of authoritarianism. What common action we can take? Here are some of my suggestions. Nordic countries can send more official delegation to visit Taiwan to show your support for Taiwan. After then, U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan in August 2022, UK Minister of State for Trade Policy, Grey Hands, led a delegation to visit Taiwan in November, and there were already many European delegations in Taiwan in this year. In 1990s, Swedish government had even sent cabinet member to visit Taiwan. We would welcome more delegations from Nordic countries to visit Taiwan in the near future to show their will and determination to deepen the bilateral cooperation in different fields with Taiwan. Secondly, we know Nordic countries support Taiwan's meaningful participation in international organizations. Last year, 11 like-minded countries such as United States, United Kingdom, Australia, France, Germany, Canada, Luxembourg, Lithuania, the Czech Republic, etc., voiced their support for Taiwan during the WHA Assembly. This year, we would like to see the Sweden as well as other Nordic countries can join the like-minded partner to speak up for Taiwan in the WHA held on May 21st and May 30. Last but not least, we hope more cooperations and exchange between Taiwan and Nordic countries in the field of innovation, trade, education, culture, development, science, and technology can be promoted. In terms of innovation, since complementary structures of economy between Taiwan and Nordic countries, both sides could deepen more collaboration on electric vehicles, financial technology, green energy, transformation, production of battery, and 5G or even 6G. In this regard, we still have a large room of improvement of the relation between Taiwan and Nordic countries. In closing, I do believe that the 2023 Taiwan-Nordic Forum will provide a platform that we share the commonality between Taiwan and Nordic countries and explore more fields to cooperate together in the future. Thanks ISDP, that means not just only Institute for Security and Development Policy, but also I secure democracy and peace. Ladies and gentlemen, in this sense, your staunchly support to democracy means also supporting ISDP and Taiwan. Thank you for your attention and wishing you a very successful discussion in the 2023 TNF Taiwan-Nordic Forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gould, for your warm and inspiring welcome address. Dear panelists, dear colleagues, dear friends, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are, and most welcome to today's session. On behalf of the ISDP, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this year's Taiwan-Nordic Forum. In particular, I would like to welcome our distinguished speakers. This third annual Taiwan-Nordic Forum consists of 3 sessions. The first taking place today, the second on Monday, the 20th, and the third on Thursday, the 23rd. Taiwan has in recent years attracted increasing attention and interest in the Nordic countries. One important reason for this is that the threat to Taiwan from mainland China seems to have become more imminent. People in the Nordic countries worry that the leaders in Beijing might resort to violence, to military force, to bring Taiwan under their rule. This threat evokes a strong sense of sympathy for the people of Taiwan among people in the Nordic countries. The threat from mainland China is perceived in terms of a big country bullying and threatening a small country. And the Nordic countries are themselves also small countries, and so it is not to be wondered at that bullying and threats from big countries against small countries cause resentment in this part of the world. In the post-World War II era, we have seen several examples of this. Taiwan's democratization and the fact that Taiwan is one of only a few democracies in East and Southeast Asia, whereas the People's Republic of China seems to become increasingly authoritarian, further adds to the sympathy for the people of Taiwan in the Nordic countries. While most people here probably do not have a definite opinion on whether Taiwan should ideally be part of the same China as mainland China, there can hardly be any doubt that the overwhelming majority of people in the Nordic countries resent the idea that the government in Beijing should try to bring about unification by means of military force. And for many of us, it is natural to think that the future of Taiwan should be decided not by the government in Beijing and not by any foreign power, but by the people of Taiwan themselves. 78 years have now passed since the end of World War II. And during most of this time, Taiwan attracted very little attention and interest in the Nordic countries. This is now changing. We can see this in different fields, in politics, but also in culture, education, trade, tourism, etc. In a long time perspective, people-to-people contacts and cooperation are no doubt most important, because this is how true mutual understanding can be built. Hopefully, the Taiwan-Nordic Forum and other activities that the ISDP organizes can make a modest contribution to increasing mutual understanding between people in Taiwan and the Nordic countries. Ladies and gentlemen, with these brief words, I wish this third Taiwan-Nordic Forum all success. And I now yield the floor to my distinguished colleague, Dr. Jagannath Panda, who will moderate today's session. Please, Jagannath.
Thank you, Professor Lothen. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are based in. Welcome to this ISDP Taiwan-Nordic Forum. Great privilege to be moderating this first panel. We had an excellent remarks from His Excellency Dr. Gu, the representative of the Taipei mission in Sweden, and also equally interesting remarks from my colleague, Professor Lothen, head of the Stockholm China Center in ISDP. Now, I think there are few striking messages from their remarks has come out, which we should take a strong note of. One, I think Taiwan and the Nordic countries, including Sweden, they do share a lot of complementarities about democracy. And I think one of the hallmarks that is coming out from both of their remarks is that PRC's aggression needs to be curbed and checked in the times to come. Second, I think there are a great number of areas and commonalities between Taiwan and Nordic countries to cooperate. And this panel is more about that. And I think there are many areas where Taiwan and Nordic countries are showing interest to collaborate, and innovation is one of those areas. In fact, if we see immediately after the Ukraine war, and also after Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, all the mainstream Nordic countries such as Sweden, Finland, Denmark have increased their focus on Taiwan, and they are collaborating more and more, showing more alignment towards democratic mode of thinking in terms of taking the partnership to the next level. Also, I think another striking feature is I think the governments in both Scandinavia and Taiwan are dedicating significant resources to promote and bolster innovation, particularly in the field of technology, environmental protection, healthcare, and healthcare, and many other areas. And I think in those contexts, there is a number of areas where the Nordic countries, the Nordic as regions could collaborate with Taiwan, including in the Indo-Pacific regions. And I think to know some of these issues, we have an excellent panel, two distinguished speakers speaking to us today. We have Professor Carol Lin. She is a distinguished professor at the Department of Business Administration at the National Chengchi Tasui in Taiwan. Her research focuses on social innovation and corporate social responsibility. She also currently supervises the Taiwanese government's International Cooperation Development Fund. She would definitely bring a strong Taiwanese perspective how Taiwan is going to cooperate with Nordic countries, including Sweden. And then we have also Professor Björn Asem, who is a professor of economic geography at the Stavanger Business School. And previously, he served as the director of the Center for Innovation Research at Lund University. He has pioneered work in the field of regional innovation systems, learning regions, and his current research focuses on entrepreneurship and innovation at the regional level. In fact, their more detailed biography, their research outputs are there in their respective university website. Also, you might like to refer ISDP's website to have a more extended achievement and about their bios in our website. With this note, let me first invite Professor Carol Lin to share her remarks. I believe she is going to make a PowerPoint presentation. Probably she would be sharing her views in 15 or 20 minutes, and then I'll go to the next speakers. Over to you, Professor Lin.
Okay, thank you very much, and for inviting me. It's really my honor to join this forum. Just for your information, I have a long-term research partner in Sweden and in Finland as well. I also study a Nordic country and publish a book about a Nordic country. So I'm going to share briefly the innovation in Taiwan, including some of my research. So now I'm going to share my PowerPoint. Okay. Can you see my PowerPoint now?
Yes, very much.
Okay. Okay, so this is my, I don't know. Okay, my outline is very simple. I would like to share with you some of the government-directed innovation policy, including manufacturing, service, and education. And I did some research about our SME in Taiwan, and I found that our business owner, especially SME, are very, very entrepreneurial. So that's what I'm going to share with you briefly, because there's a lot of material. Okay, and this is actually there's a website that if you have interest, you can actually check our National Development Council. And I only give you one of the manufacturing example. There's a lot. We have a 6 core strategic industry and some innovation, including AI and 5G. So these are all self-explanatory. And what I think is very important is that for every industry, our government they have their goal, such as this one for the innovative energy. Sorry, they separate into geothermal, bioenergy, and ocean, and each have its stage goal, including 2025 and 2030 and 2050. And for each, they have several very detailed operational procedures. And the next one will be the strategy, how they are going to achieve the goal by a certain year. So this is one of the examples that our government has been working on. And this is only one example. We have also a lot, including green finance, carbon sinks, and resources utilization and storage, such kind of thing. Every issue has a set of these goals and a set of strategy and procedures. So they're in great detail. And of course, the government also have a group of people who have the checking point to see whether actually those innovation has been really achieved according to the goal. So this is one example of the manufacturing. Then this is for service. We have these are the 10 most important service scopes that the government, Taiwanese government, are promoting. And I just show some of them, such as global healthcare, music, and digital contents, and urban renewal, then higher education export, such kind of thing. And every item has a responsible ministry. So it is very well defined that which issue should be taken care of by which ministry. Some of them are joint efforts, but if the service are included in this scope, it's much easier to apply for government financial support. So by highlighting those 10 important service scopes, I think the people or the businessmen, they can become more focused and geared toward, their efforts will be geared toward the goals that the government would like to see. So this is the service. And the third one will be the education. So we have a so-called white paper for creativity education that actually leads to the innovation when they grow up. So the education part, our government, this is from the white paper book, okay? The goal is to nurture lifelong learning and dare to innovate attitude of students. And they would like to create environment for happy learning and respect diversity. So this is also very important, and provide easily accessible knowledge. And as far as I know, in our school now, almost every student have an iPad. They use iPad to learn from online, and as you perhaps already know, that Taiwan is very high-tech oriented. Our technology is relatively advanced and quite advanced, so it is not too difficult for our school's children to have iPad and use them. And they would like children to develop respect for intellectual property, okay? And then promote innovation variety and a kind of menu to become active sharing. So this is a very simple goal for our school children to become innovative in the future, okay? And after then, I would like to share some of my own research. And this is my book, together with our previous Minister of Education, who happens to be the president of my school. So we jointly published the Educational Innovation, the Evolution of Educational Innovation in Taiwan with real cases. We found that some of the very rural schools, which are really lack of resources, they do not have as plentiful resources as those city schools, but they use their natural environment, and the teachers are very creative, are very innovative, and bring a lot of different aspects of teaching, and really create a very nurturing learning environment for our school children, especially in the rural area, using very, very limited resources and create a big performance. That is what this book is about. Okay. Then another one will be, I did some research about the innovation behavior of SME. I was commissioned by our SME administration for several years to do a big survey. So you can see my sample are relatively large, over 800. So although it is my early research, but it really shows something that the people, the orientation of our people. I asked them a lot of questions, and I asked whether the business owner have incremental innovation or radical, or both incremental and radical innovation, and no innovation. And out of those over 800 samples, only about 1/4, about 20%, they said that they do not have innovation at all. So this is the phenomena of the people's orientation. And I believe over these years, it will become more and more entrepreneurial, because our businessmen are very keen to the market change. So I really believe that nowadays they are perhaps more and more innovative than what I found in my early research. Okay. And the next one is the same sample. I asked about whether they would like to have technical innovation or marketing or administration or strategic innovation. They majorly focus on technical and marketing innovation. That is my finding. Okay. Then next one I would like to share with you my research. This is my research with Nordic country. I have a panel data of 20 years for 59 countries. And that is why I study Nordic. And this is the book I published with my Swedish research partner, Leif Evinson. We published a set of 12 books about the intellectual capital, and at that time is financial crisis. So this is the book that I study about. And my most update data is 2020. So I briefly show you some graph about the so-called renewal capital. I will show you the indicators of this renewal capital, but from the graph, you can see that Denmark really advanced. My database is started from 2001. So it's 20 years trajectory of the renewal capital. Denmark is the best one. They are advanced. You can see the orange line from here to here. And then Norway is also very good. Okay. Iceland, they did not progress too much. You can see the purple line is really vertical. Okay, this is the correlation between renewal capital and GDP per capita and PPP. So for this, for the 5 Nordic countries, Denmark is the best one, and Norway, then Iceland actually did not have much progress, and amazingly, Sweden and Finland, they regress. You can see the correlation is negative. So it's really a regress for the 20 years. And for Taiwan, the red line, Taiwan is really good in renewal capital. And what are the renewal capital? These are the 12 indicators of the renewal capital in my national intellectual capital model. And mainly this is about R&D and research and IP right protection, such kind of thing, and also the utility pattern and scientific article development and application of technology. So it's a much more toward innovation. Okay. And last night I pulled out some of the IMD data. This is IMD data is from Switzerland. The database actually produced the global competitiveness ranking. So it's a very well-established database. I'll just pull out some of the statistics, which is patent application and patent granted. So I showed Israel and Sweden and Switzerland and Taiwan. Okay, and the orange one is the granted, the approved part, and the blue one is the application number. So basically, for Israel and Switzerland, the approval rate is about 50%. For Sweden and Taiwan, the approval rate, that means that the granted patent versus the application number, is about over 70%. Sweden is 72, Taiwan is 71. So that means actually, in fact, Taiwanese company are really very innovative. They put a lot of efforts, try to innovate and apply for patent. Okay. Then I have my last slide is about the innovative capacity. This is also from IMD database. And the left-hand side are the 5 Nordic countries. Sweden is the best one. And Iceland is, Taiwan is about the same as Finland and Norway. But the right part is our neighbor countries, such as Korea, Japan, and France, and Germany. And Taiwan is the one with the red circle. So in terms of innovative capacity from IMD database, we are better than Korea, than Japan, and almost the same as France. Of course, Germany is very good. So these are the statistics concerning about innovation. So, and some are my research, some are my search from the internet, from our government policy. So these are the very short briefing about what I have an interest to share with you. So thank you very much for listening, for your attention. If you have questions that I can answer afterwards, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lin. That was an excellent presentation. In fact, your last slide was very interesting, even though, you know, there are many areas where Taiwan still not really well connected with the global, you know, supply chain networks and with the global economy for many political and strategic regions. But your last slide shows that Taiwan is not really, you know, far behind in comparison to other big economies globally. And that's an interesting point to make. And your point about innovative energy, you know, looking at economic, legal, and technical aspects in Taiwan, those are actually important measures. And particularly your points about service sectors, global healthcare, global logistics, e-commerce, digital contents, urban renewal, food industries, higher education exports, exhibition and conferences. These are the areas where many countries in Asia have been benefited. And therefore, it replicates Taiwan's leadership in regionally, as well as how Taiwan is still very strongly connected with the global supply chain of networks and all. And that also allows us to rethink about Taiwan's, how we could revitalize our connections with the Nordic countries, including with other European regions. With this note, and definitely there will be some interesting questions coming in your way from our listeners, from our participants. But with this note, let me also invite Professor Bjorn Asem for his remarks. Maybe he will be showing his PowerPoint and he will be speaking for 15 to 20 minutes, and then we can go for the discussion Q&A. Over to you, Professor Asem. Please unmute yourself.
Could the previous speaker remove her slides?
Professor Lin, can you please close your slides?
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much for the invitation. In fact, I have visited Taiwan once as a representing Circle in a delegation from the university. I think it was in 2012 when I was director there. So I'll try to share my screen. No. So once more, we try once more. Let me see, share screen.
Yes, we can see it now.
Yeah. We try once more. Let me see. Share screen. Oh.
Professor Asem, if there are any technical problems from your side, maybe our side, our outreach manager, Miss Anna, can show it for you.
Yeah, I'll try once last time. Let me see.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So share screen, and then it should be. No, it just disappeared. Let me see. No, I think you better do it from your side then.
Okay, so you please leave the desktop so that they can manage it. Yeah.
Could you put it in presenting mode also? Yeah, good. So I will talk about Nordic innovation policy overview and comparison. So the next slide, please. Yes, there's many ways of looking at science, technology, innovation policy. One quite sort of now becoming quite sort of well known is Schott and Strandmøller's article from 2018, where I talk about three framings. I will refer to this, that's why I start with this. The first framing is sort of the linear model, focusing on R&D. It was sort of dominating until 1980s or something, but it's still around and influential in some circumstances. The second framing is the national system of innovation, peaked around 2010, but still very influential in parts of EU and the Nordic countries, but not in Denmark, interesting. And third framing is the what I call transformative change, focusing on how to solve grand societal challenges. So the first two framings still represents innovation policy in many countries, while the third framing is getting increasingly higher attention from policymakers. So please, the next slide. So when we look at the Nordic countries, this is a graph about the share of R&D as a share of gross domestic products, and you see that Sweden is on top, has always been more or less, and Norway is the lowest one. Next, please. If you look specifically in 2021. And Sweden use 3.36% on R&D of gross domestic product. Finland follow then 298, Denmark then 293, Iceland 277, Norway 194, and compared to the average of EU, which is 219. The next slide, please. So why is Norway at the bottom? There's basically two explanations. This is 21, you know, and then there was the prices of oil and gas, the most important export articles from Norway was skyrocketing. So this blew up, they boosted the Norwegian gross domestic product. So that's one explanation. So it grew 20%, while growth in R&D was only 5%. But it has to be noticed that even this sort of, if you look at absolute numbers on R&D, is still low in Norway, and that could partly be explained, not fully, partly explained by the industrial structure. Norway does not have a large electronic industry as Sweden, or pharmaceutical industry as Denmark, which are very R&D intensive. Norwegian industry is mostly engineering industry, for instance, the supplier industry to oil and gas, building platforms and things like that, which basically is sort of rely on experience-based knowledge and not as much on basic research. So these two factors explain a lot, but not everything. If you look at the companies' share of spending on R&D, is highest in Sweden with a share of 72%, which reflects the industrial structure, but also the dominance of big global competitive companies. While Norway is lowest with 54%. The higher educational institution share is highest in Denmark with 37% of total R&D. And we come back to that, why this is the case, because Denmark really had a science policy and boosted academic research, which also is reflected in if you look at ranking of publication, that Denmark is the highest scoring in Nordic countries. But that's not the same as innovation, where Sweden is leading. Okay, please, next slide. So if we very quickly look at the key point in Nordic innovation strategies, Finland has a sort of science-driven high-tech strategy focusing on radical innovation, product innovation. That was the Nokia time. The Nokia disappeared. I mean, a lot of things of the innovative capacity and performance disappeared in Finland. They later adopted a broad-based policy. And then R&D spending decreased last decade due to a significant cut in basic funding for research institutes and takers, now called Business Finland. The reason for that was partly that the economic performance of Finland after the financial crisis has been quite modest, not very good. Also due to Nokia, the locomotive really disappeared. And then the government concluded that the output, the performance of the heavy all the money that was put on R&D was not satisfactory. And these two factors led to quite heavily reduction of R&D spending. Sweden has a technology-based strategy of process innovation and complex product innovation through R&D investment in large industry, very much so. Denmark is interesting because they had a science policy and they first introduced innovation policy in 2012. While we combat that in the other Nordic countries, innovation policy has been on the map for much longer time. And this was combined with the market user-driven innovation, often characterized by non-R&D based incremental product innovation, for instance, in the food sector. Norway has sort of a resource-based strategy for process innovation in the large export-oriented industries. There was a national innovation system sort of policy and non-R&D experience-based innovation and engineering-based SMEs. So there was a sort of a mixed bag. The next one, please. So I think Sweden is really, to me, the most interesting example because it is sort of, I think Sweden is the leading European country when it comes to innovation policy. And here history matters. They have a long industrial history, very sort of very high competent engineering based. They're large international companies. The first really sort of example of our innovation policy was the pairing of public utility suppliers from, for instance, Vattenfall with producer capital equipment, then ABB. ABB, then ASEA. And that was in the mid-30s, in fact. Later theorized as development blocks by Erik Dahmén and innovation system approach. Today implemented as strong research and innovation milieus by Vinnova. Sweden has, according to the OECD report in 2013, which is sort of really good to give a comprehensive background for Swedish innovation policy, is the most resilient economy in Europe by always coming out of crisis by being technologically more advanced. This is due to Sweden's proactive innovation policy existing before innovation was part of the political discourse, as this example from the 30s reflects. And what has been a characteristic with innovation policy in Sweden is this coordinated long-term innovation policy, 10 years competence programs focusing on generic technologies. Since 2001, Vinnova as public agency responsible for this innovation policy. And this is perhaps the major difference between Sweden and Finland, why Sweden why the performance, competitive performance of Sweden has been much more strong than in Finland, that Finland didn't have the same long-term strategy. And that's very important to note. Next slide, please. So some example of this development and innovation policy in Sweden. The first time they started on this 10 years programs was in 1979, when then STU, the Board for Technical Development, supported strategic basic research in new and potentially important areas of Swedish industry. But this was strategic basic research, so it was directed to IT, microelectronics, and biotech. And this is interesting too, you know, it was not like in Denmark, just general basic research, it was sort of strategic. And then the first explicit promotion of strong R&I milieus in 1990, when 11 interdisciplinary material consortium were established. This initiative had a 10 years perspective also and was funded by the National Science Research Council. In 1995, another 10 years program was started, the Core Competence Center program. This is a further development of the concept, which was introduced in the material consortium. 28 centers were included in this program. And then Vinnova, established in 2001, has this center expertise, a 2 program, originally Win Excellence and Win Vext, 10 years program building strong regional research and innovation milieus. Next slide, please. So I will give you sort of two comparative examples. This is between Norway and Sweden. It's a bit old numbers because we haven't done some years we did the research, but I think the basic point is there still. So what I want to highlight here is the organization of the R&D system and the location of research university research institutes that carry out the research. So what you see here is that in Sweden, you have the universities has a very high, so the industry has a very high share of R&D, which I mentioned before, compared to Norway. Then what we have in Norway is applied research institutes, and there's hardly any in Sweden. There is some, but not as important. Now, these are applied research institutes that are specializing in certain technologies in the incumbent industries in Norway. So that's a characteristic. So the business sector has a much higher sort of R&D intensity, and then in Norway you have the applied research institutes, which university in Sweden take care of. Okay, next slide. And then it's interesting to see the spatial concentration in Norway and then later in Sweden. Because what you see in Norway is that it's heavily concentrated in the capital region in Oslo, share of R&D and share of research council R&D funding. And then secondly, in mid-Norway, which is Trondheim, where you find a dominating technical university in Norway. And then the third is Bergen, Western Norway, where you have the third largest university. So it's very much focused on these three, because Norway has this sort of, so the research capacity is very constant in the big cities, while the industrial structure is very much sort of peripheral along the coast, which sort of is doing a lot of sort of experience-based innovation, and it's sort of organized in cluster that sort of, when they relate to the technical university. So the next one, please. If you make a comparison between Norway and Sweden, you see that in Sweden, there's much more sort of evenly distributed geographically. So the capital region has much less, Stockholm and Uppsala, in fact. And then you see that the second largest is Gothenburg, the third largest is Lund, Malmö, and the fourth largest perhaps Linköping area. They have quite sort of reasonable shares. And part of the explanation there is that you have strong industrial bases spread around Sweden with big international competitive. And then interesting, you have many strong technical universities. So you have KTH in Stockholm, you have Chalmers in Gothenburg, you have Lund University as technical university as part of the university, and Linköping as a big technical university. Then you also have it in Luleå. And this is interesting because in Norway, you know, the big technical university in Trondheim is very much sort of focused on what the incumbent process industries are doing. While you have a much more sort of broader competence base in Sweden, because this university have different specialization. And this, I think, can be an important factor when it comes to sort of renewal of the industry, that they have different sort of knowledge competences in different sort of technical universities. Okay, and next one, please. Then I will sort of talk a bit about it at the end, transformative innovation policy. So it's argued then that the innovation policy based on notion of market failure, which is the first framing, or system failure, which is the second framing, is too limited in the context of current societal challenges. Transformative innovation policies aim to address current societal challenges like climate change and things like that. The rationale for policy intervention is to shape and create markets, goes beyond the sort of fixing idea, to develop a critical demand for new sustainable products and services using that of the public sector, using, for instance, public procurement for innovation, can play an important role in the sort of developing, shape and create markets. by organizing then the process of demand articulation, because very often it's the case that this sort of new sustainable product doesn't really have a ready market. So you have to sort of the public sector has a very important role to play to shape market for this as the first stage. Main point in a transformative innovation approach is through a mission-oriented policy and system innovation policy to contribute to solving grand society challenges by providing directionality. To say that focus on this, this is very serious challenges. We have to sort of focus the R&D activity and innovation on that. Sweden and Finland have been leading among the Nordic countries in introducing transformative innovation policy, ranked first and third out of 166 countries towards the 17 social development goals of United Nations in 2020. Next one, please. So Vinnova has sort of introduced system innovation policy in 2012. It's defined as the horizontal policy approach that mobilizes technology, market mechanism, regulation, and social innovation to solve complex societal problems in a set of interacting or interdependent components that form a whole socio-technical system. So Vinnova introduced two new so-called flagship programs here, strategic innovation programs, SIP 212, still running, and challenge there with innovation. In total, they consume 30% of Vinnova's budget, so they really sort of quite dominated. Next one, please. So very shortly then, what's the differences in transformative innovation policy between Finland and Sweden? So Sweden has really been the pioneer in designing and implementing transformative innovation programs through these flagship programs that is dedicated to be a transformative innovation policy. Vinnova's challenge-driven innovation program from 2011 was the first of its kind at a time when other national innovation programs were still rooted in the first and second framing of innovation policy. So unlike Sweden, Finland does not have a large flagship programs for transformation. Rather, the transformative approach is sort of in directionality are reflected and embedded in an assortment of initiatives spanning various policy domains. And this has the impact that the effect of the transformative approach in Finland is not as big because they're distributed in many different programs. And while in Sweden, they have been sort of concentrated in some flagship programs, which make a big difference. Okay, and the last one, I think that was the last. I think it was the last one. Yes, isn't that correct? Yeah. So thanks for the attention.
Thank you very much for that excellent presentation. In fact, some really interesting point you made, and particularly sharing how Sweden still figures highly in comparison to other Nordic countries. And particularly your point about how Sweden implements technology-based strategy in terms of promoting innovation in the industrial growth and other things, and also particularly about its proactive policy. And this is what we all are witnessing, how Sweden is taking a frontline seat when it comes to being very innovative and being very proactive in terms of transforming its innovative policy and trying to have a more integrated economic growth model to the country's economic development and all. But with this note, let me thank both the speakers, and I'm already receiving a couple of questions. Probably I would like to read the questions first for the speakers, and then I'll invite them to answer them very briefly. So the first questions comes to Professor Lin. It is coming from Foster Conleff, who is with ISDP, and he asks, what could the Nordic countries learn from Taiwan's successful renewal capital model, particularly Sweden and Finland, to reduce their regression? This is an interesting question, particularly given the way we are talking about Nordic Taiwan cooperations. So in your opinion, Professor Lin, how do you see that the Nordic countries could learn from Taiwan's successful renewal capital model? And what are those Nordic countries who could actually learn, in what sectors, in what ways they could learn, particularly Sweden and Finland. If you could comment on that, Professor Lin.
Okay, thank you for the question. I really would like to emphasize that Sweden and Finland is the model of Taiwan. The chart I show, the renewal capital are regressing for Sweden and Finland is because it's 20 years trajectory. But still, these two countries are still at the top of renewal capital. Only the reason why Taiwan has grown so fast is one of the most important reasons is we have a lot of very qualified, wonderful, competent engineer. Our children, they choose science major a lot. Comparing to, because I play with those statistics and I know that in Nordic country and some European countries as well, not many students would like to study science or engineer because it's harder. So that is one of the reasons that perhaps you can promote, because nowadays it's a high-tech era. So those people with a good knowledge of technology and good at math, they perhaps can help the country to develop much more faster. Another reason is I checked with the number also. I found our business R&D percentage in Taiwan is high. For your information, our business, they invest in R&D for Taiwan is about 2.7%, and Sweden is about 2.4%. And Japan is 2.5%, and Korea is much higher. Korea has a 3.6% of business invested in R&D. So because for the renewal or for the technology, we need very good competent human resources, and education is one of the main reasons. Perhaps you can try to promote science and engineering major more, and encourage and perhaps give some incentive for the student who choose to major in science and engineer, and also the business, if they can they not rely on government or some research institute, but the business themselves, they are willing to invest in R&D. So these are the 2 points that I can share with you. Okay.
Brilliant. There is already another question coming up for Professor Assem for you. It is asked by our ISDP colleague Ruey-sheng who asks that, is it possible to say that Norway spends relatively little on research and development because it possesses precious natural resources like petroleum, which other Nordic countries do not have? How do you see this?
So as I said, that's definitely one. This industrial structure is one explanatory factor. But they have technologically very advanced engineering-based supplier industry to oil and gas. And oil and gas in itself, it's categorized as low-tech. It's not really low-tech. It's quite advanced to get oil out of the ground and gas out of the ground like that. But the engineering base is world leading in its area, especially with sort of deep sea operation. But the point is that engineering-based industry are not patenting that much, So if you use patent, you get an incomplete or partial picture of what is going on in country, and that's very important to remember. Sweden has a really advanced hardware deep tech industry, but for instance, production of robot technology, they don't patent a lot because they don't want to give the information away. So this has to remember that. So of course this reflects the industrial structure, reflect that. But in general, even if you talk about this importance of the big gross domestic product and the industrial structure, doesn't explain everything, because systematically Norway has spent less on R&D because we don't have a Vinnova and that sort of thing, So there is, even if you control for this, it's still low. I just want to say to that I don't think you should compare Finland and Sweden when it comes to renewable, because Finland really have problem, you know, because they were so dominant on Nokia and they cut it down, so they have much more sort of weaker performance. Sweden, last autumn I evaluated for Vinnova 10 competence center program, and they are all in very, very advanced life science industry and different types of hardware deep tech industry, sort of new materials and different types of technology and things like that. Really at the front of industrial development when it comes to deep tech industries, you know. So I would really sort of say, don't put today Finland and Sweden on the same level. Finland sort of on paper, they at the beginning of the when they started on the R&D focus policy after the Soviet markets crashed, they on paper very ideal role model. But as I said, you know, the effect of what I put in, they were sometimes higher also in R&D than Sweden, you know, was much weaker because they didn't have this long-term focus that Sweden has. But today, then I think there's quite a significant difference, and also Sweden is, I think, still very interesting and very sort of high, really a high renewable capacity. But you don't catch it in pattern because it's in deep tech hardware industry, which is engineering based.
Just as a follow-up, thank you very much for that excellent answer. In fact, just as a follow-up, may I ask, like, what's the strength of Nordic countries' innovative policy, which you think will be most useful for the Taiwan and other East Asian countries? In fact, this is what Ruey-sheng Wu also would like to know. That can we say that you know, these are the strength areas in the Nordic countries which could be implemented or can be the medium of strong partnership in Taiwan and in other East Asian countries? Have you really done anything, any research about this, or thought about something you would like to share? Or maybe Professor Lin, I'll come to you also later. What do you think also how the Nordic countries' innovation policy could be implemented in Taiwan and East Asian countries as a reciprocal? So over to you first, Professor Assem.
So as I emphasized, I think this sort of Sweden's long-term innovation policy is sort of really important, you know. Norway has a bit the same when it comes to this cluster program. They are also long-term. And that's the most interesting part of Norwegian innovation policy is the cluster program. You also find this in Sweden with Norway. So that's one thing, the long-term perspective. And then, of course, Sweden has this sort of really sort of high engineering-based competence level, which you also probably find in Taiwan, and you have it in South Korea, definitely. So it's a very high competence level, which they systematically has built up with this 10 years program from 79, which sort of focusing on strategic research and developing generic competence, generic knowledge, which makes you sort of very prepared. Sort of the readiness for innovation is very high because you have this sort of solid basis. And then I think it's that this sort of having a specific agency for innovation, like Vinnova, is important. I know Korea has the same. And I think that can be very sort of have been very sort of efficient and important also. In Norway, this is distributed between different agencies, and then that reduce the efficiency. The same in Finland, you know, also distributed, you know. And Denmark still has this sort of too strong focus, I think, on basic research and R&D, which university perform excellent, you know, but it's sort of too little sort of spillover for innovation, even if they are improving.
Yes, thank you very much. Professor Lin, you have anything to say?
Yeah, I agree with Professor Ashman about the long-term perspective of Swedish government. And one thing I'm very impressed when I wrote the book about Nordic country, I found that the people of Sweden really, when they know that the government are doing the right thing, the people and or the parties really support such kind of policy. because of the financial, I said I studied financial crisis at that time. Even the opposing party, political party, they do not argue. When the government put out a very good policy, they all support it. And that is one thing which is not happening in Taiwan. So we have a lot of political struggle. So that is make us, although we are very democratic, but our progress is a little bit slow. And I think that such kind of a patriotic cohesiveness among the people in Sweden and Nordic country make Nordic country really become much more prosperous, and always leading in many important indicators such as R&D and innovation. Actually, Nordic country are really the leaders in the whole world. According to my 20 years of data, I really found that Nordic country is a region which is really very respectable. That people and government work together to make it happen, to make good things happen. Yeah, we should learn from you.
I agree with you there that especially there Sweden is standing out also because sort of innovation policy is really not discussed among political parties. It's taken for granted because it has been there for a long time. Also, they started with before innovation policy was developed as a terminology, in 1930, and then also you have this sort of the big global companies that are. If they want to be internationally competitive, they had to focus, put a lot of R&D. In Finland, it was more a new government, 2015 or something, with a more populistic oriented, that started cutting R&D very much. And in Norway, Denmark, you also have this discussion, because much more disagreement than in Sweden. But everything is relative, But Sweden stands out, this. Innovation is sort of beyond political discussion, more or less.
Yes.
Right. No, this is very interesting and really educative in many ways. But there are more comments and questions coming up. I have a comment to share to both of you, and maybe you could, respond to this comment. This is from Banks Johansson. He writes that I find that the two ways of counting innovation level is perhaps not correct. One, research and development as share of GDP does not take into account efficiency of research and development investment. Second, number of patent applications does not make a difference between low technology patents and high technology patents. I understand that it is difficult to measure real innovation level, but these two ways of counting could be misleading. How do you respond? How do you see this, Professor Hassan?
So yeah, I agree that the problem with R&D is that research is not the same as innovation. I mean, in some type of innovation, especially sort of in science-based industries, research is very important. In other, like in engineering, it's much more applied research that is important. So if you just look at sort of the R&D, then there's many things behind there, and Denmark sort of, as I said, put a lot of funding into basic research, but then the output when it comes to innovation effect is not as efficient. Also because you need to have an institutional framework to transfer this knowledge. Sweden has that with Vinnova and things like that, a much stronger focus on that. And then secondly, the patent. I think that the most problematic aspect of using patent is that they sort of not reflect in the same way all type of industry. It's clearly science-based industry like biotech and things like that, and IT is sort of then it sort of reflects what is going on really. But engineering, as I said, really technically advanced deep tech industries like robot technology, they don't patent. I had a SNI project in Denmark where we look at industrial stronghold. One was advanced production, and we talked with a leading robotic cluster in Odense, and they say we don't patent. We don't want to give our information away. And there was an American note that sort of last year presented some research on the future of the Nordic countries, and using patent, and what they got was an ICT in Sweden and life science in Denmark, and nothing about the sort of, for instance, Sweden's leading engineering-based industry, So you have to be careful with patent, because it doesn't really reflect in equal way the whole industrial structure.
Right. Thank you. No, Professor Lin, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think in terms of patent, I'm really glad to know that some businessmen would like to give away so that they do not apply for the patent. Also, nowadays there's a lot of open source innovation, so perhaps patent in the future will not be that important anymore. But the one that I share with you is from IMD data, because that is one indicator that shows the innovativeness of each country. So perhaps at the present time, they are the only indicator or the only statistic that we can rely on to report the innovativeness of each country. So that is a limitation, of course. So, but before anything better that created, perhaps this is the only way that we judge the innovation of each country. Okay.
Thank you. So there are a couple of more questions. I'll first read the question from my ISDP colleague, Dr. Ruey-sheng. He says that, thank you very much for your interesting presentations. I was wondering if there are any major cooperation projects related to innovation between the Nordic countries and Taiwan. For example, have any Nordic stakeholders from either the public or private sectors been involved in the 6 core strategic industries promoted by the Tsai administration? Maybe I'll start with you, Professor Lee. Maybe you should comment first.
Yeah, I actually did some research about Nordic country, and I also published some academic paper together with my research partner, Professor Leif Evanson. I'm not sure whether you know him, but he's the one in intellectual capital. So I wrote several articles and books together with him, and I keep on updating my panel data. So I will update it year by year. Sometimes when he would like to make a speech in a certain country, he asked me to draw some graph for him. But actually, I'm interested in Nordic country because it is the region that I think can be a very good model for Taiwan or for Asian countries. Okay, so basically that's my answer up to now. Okay.
Sure. You have anything to add, Professor Hassan?
I have nothing to add here.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Let me read the next question, which is also very interesting.
Could I ask?
Yes, sure.
I soon have to leave because I'm in a hotel now. I have to go to the university, be there at 12 o'clock.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes to the seminar. We'll end at 11:15. So I'll take this last question, and then maybe you could comment on this, and then we'll end up. So I have a question from Frida Lampinen. She asks that in the media, policy innovation is often talked about in relation to industrial high-tech sectors. For example, in the context of semiconductor chip or robotics industry. I would be curious to know if there are any major innovation trends currently going on in non-industrial sectors in any of the relevant countries that might be overlooked by the media. So maybe I would go with you first, Professor Assam, and then Professor Lee.
Yeah, so I have in my research worked with sort of different type of knowledge. I call it knowledge bases, analytical science-based, synthetic engineering-based, and symbolic, sort of intangible, sort of art-based, focusing aesthetics and things like that, And the argument was that you find innovation in all type of sectors, all type of industry, but it's done in different ways, depending on the dominating knowledge base. And this sort of symbolic knowledge base is really interesting because that comes to use in everything that has to do with design, for instance. I mean, fashion and things like that, you know. But also when you are going to sort of, if you follow this sort of blue ocean strategy in food, for instance, I mean, this copying that you sort of compete, you achieve product differentiation, compete on your uniqueness. But it can go for a market where price doesn't really matter, it's quality and things like that. Then narratives is very important, you know, and that also symbolic knowledge base. So Denmark is one of the leading countries when it comes to sort of ecological organic food production, for instance, and the market 25% or something like that. So it's really, really high share. And there, for instance, sort of narrative, the storytelling is very important, you know, and it sort of makes a big difference when it comes to value creation potential. And you have fashion industry, you have in Sweden fashion industry, you have in Denmark fashion industry, quite big industries, where also there's sort of design symbolic knowledge base. So you have this sort of symbolic knowledge base that can be very important, you know, and have quite a large value creation potential.
Thank you. Over to you, Professor Lin.
Okay, I think Taiwan has been focused too much on manufacturing. Of course, what we apply for the patent are mainly technology oriented. But nowadays, I also share with you the service scope innovation and education innovation. That is the area that we think that we should focus more, because when the technology advances, it needs to serve the purpose of humankind. So we think that social sciences needs to have more innovation, such as when robotic can do a lot of human things, then what will happen? So we have to prevent something bad from happening. So nowadays we encourage our humanity and social sciences students to try to envision what will happen. Perhaps in 2030 or 2050, try to envision the problem we will face and try to innovate to prevent such kind of things from happening. Also, the education, we focus a lot on educational innovation. That is why we have a white paper book about creativity, education, such kind of thing. We think that Taiwan can no longer focus too much on manufacturing only. We have to be more sensitive to the human needs, using innovative ways of thinking to do some social innovation, also educational innovation. So that is, I think, has a great future.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, no, that has been very interesting. In fact, personally for me, this has been an educative and learning session, and I could clearly see that there is a lot happening when it comes to innovations and innovation as a medium of cooperation between, you know, Nordic regions and Taiwan. And I think more will follow from here on. But with this note, let me thank both of our distinguished speakers in this first panel in the Taiwan-Nordic Forum of ISDP. To our listeners and participants, I would just read out that, you know, 2 more interesting sessions are coming up. The day 2, will be more about digital diplomacy. Don't miss out. Please do register. That is on Monday. Please check out the time in your time zone so that you could register and participate. And the day 3, the third panel would, focus on energy transition, how energy transition is being seen in Nordic countries, in the Nordic regions, and also in Taiwan, and what both the sides, are going to learn from each other in terms of energy, renewable energy, and in terms of energy as a medium of collaborations, be it solar energy, be it in the medium of sustainable developments, and so forth and so on. So with this note, let me thank all of you, those who have attended this, day 1 of the first panel. And I also join in terms of thanking my colleagues in ISDP who has been very supportive in terms of organizing this panel and getting the excellent speakers for this forum. Thank you very much, Professor Lin and Professor Asem. We hope to get you back for our future events. and your remarks has been truly full of education and learning for us. And we really appreciate your time and presentation today. Thank you very much, and have
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good day ahead and a good
Yeah.
weekend ahead also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Same to you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.